What's going on, everybody? It's your boy D Got Sense back for episode 9. Never fly higher than you are willing to fall. So, one thing we must understand about gravity is that it'll always pull you down, right? Meaning that for every action, there's an opposite reaction, right? Whether it be good for you or bad for you. So, when it pertains to never fly higher than you're willing to fall, all I'm basically saying is never do something that you're not comfortable with the potential outcome. You know what I mean? So, overextending yourself beyond your ability to take the consequence or repercussion for whatever that action may be. Um, Many times through our life, people will overextend themselves, whether it be with gambling, right? Like if you there's a I'll use this. There's a phrase in investing that's very similar to this. Never risk more than you're willing to lose, or more than you can afford to lose, right? If it compromises, if you are gonna make a decision and it compromises your comfortability, I won't even say comfortability, but your survivability, then you are about to take a risk versus a calculated risk, right? Because the only way to grow in life is to take calculated risk, right? So many people have heard of risk, but they've never really been taught about calculated risk, um, and that has led to people ruining themselves over and over again, all because you left out the word calculated. So when you hear that someone is taking a risk, you have to ask yourself, was it a planned thing, or was it impulsive, or was it a spur of the moment, right? That's why one of my key principles that I live by, which I have a few, right? Um, I don't deal with people that are impulsive because it shows a lack of preparation. It shows a lack of hindsight, right? You move before you think. And moving like that, you will always be three steps behind the person that stopped and truly game plan, set out a blueprint, and figured out all the nuances of whatever they're pursuing, and how it could go well and how it could vary and how it could end bad, right? It's kind of like if you want to go skydiving and you go, all right, let's go get in a plane, let's do it, and then you forget to bring a parachute, right? You've now all of a sudden you're worried about the the damage to your body because of the fall, because you didn't think about it beforehand, right? You're flying higher than you're willing to fall due to the circumstances at hand. Many times, people will over leverage themselves when it comes to jobs, right? I've seen many people in the world that'll try to work more hours and basically, like, say you're not on salary, right? You pick up more hours than you can manage. You schedule yourself, or you tell them, hey, I'm willing to work 80 hours. And then hour 60 comes, and all of a sudden you're gassed, you're gassed, you're burnt out, you're mentally, physically exhausted from the job or the people that you work with. You have now flown higher than you are willing to fall. So the whole principle behind never fly higher than you're willing to fall is basically understanding, do not overextend yourself beyond your means, beyond your ability to complete whatever the task is, right? Or it puts you in such a compromising position that you then lose the leverage that would have given you power in the situation. You see what I'm saying? So when it comes to calculated risk are never. Sometimes they're fast, sometimes they're not, but they're never impulsive, right? Because to think about something you're gonna do and truly ask yourself, what is the consequence, right? Like there has to be pretty much balances, like checks and balances, right? Like a lot of people that I've talked to recently, they'll admit to me that, they eat certain foods, they drink certain foods, and they really just never thought about what would happen after. That's a risk, right? Like there are, and I always use the word spectrum, right? Because a spectrum is quite literally relative to everything that we do. Everything is on a spectrum, right? There's spectrums to emotions. There's spectrums to finances. There's a spectrum to your understanding of the scriptures. There's a spectrum to physical wealth and health and wellness. There's a spectrum to how much love you have, how much compassion you have, sympathy, empathy, right? Everything is on a spectrum. And most people, okay, I'll give you another one, right? Stand on the spectrum. Most people give out more love than they are willing to lose and basically recover after the person has mismanaged it, right? Um, and here's the thing, we're all looking for a return on our investment, right? You don't want to be loyal to people and not get loyalty in return. That it just doesn't make sense. Everyone is in a what's the word I'm looking for? It just slipped my mind, man. I know when I listen back to it, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, dang, what's the word I'm looking for, man? Okay, it's basically like somebody put it in the comments, man. It's whenever conditional. God, dog, everybody's conditional. No one is unconditional, right? Even the Most High, Yah, has conditions, right? In order for you to enter into His kingdom, which is to live by His rules and standards, and you will abide by them, or get cut off, pretty much, right? So every even the Creator is conditional. Everybody is conditional, and when you dish out something more than you're willing to take back or not get back at all, you're over leveraging yourself, right? If you have $1,000 and you're trying to make a play happen, right? But you gotta, let's say pay something off. You cannot afford for that play to go south, right? Depending on to the risk to reward, right? So basically, all never fly higher than you're willing to fall is pertaining to is risk versus the reward. If the risk outweighs the reward, you're about to take a risk. But if the reward outweighs the risk, you're about to make a calculated risk. Is pretty much all I'm saying. So when it comes down to never fly higher than you're willing to fall, you have to think about, um, is what I'm about to do going to reward me more than it's going to punish me in the long haul. Um, and that's the only way that you have to look at it. That's the only way you can look at it if you are prioritizing longevity. You know what I mean? So when it comes down to it, you have to always have uh, tunnel vision, right? You have to be focused, and then you have to have hindsight as well to look at the end of, not, I won't say the end of time, but the end of whatever you're doing. You have to visualize exactly what you're doing and ask yourself, the current trajectory that I'm on, where will it lead me, right? Like if you're drink like say you work a bunch of hours, right? If you drink energy drinks every single day, you have to ask yourself, what is the risk versus the reward, right? Yes, I'm staying up, but at what cost? My health, right? So, what happens whenever you pass the point of diminishing returns where you're staying up, but it's hurting your body so much to the point where you ain't gonna be able to do nothing at all no more. You just finna be in the ground. You see what I'm saying? Risk versus reward. So when you it's like this. Um, hold on one second. All right, so sorry about that. I kind of lost my train of thought. Um, but yeah, pretty much when it comes to flying higher than you're willing to fall, you have to always think longevity. Will this be beneficial or detrimental when it's all said and done? And how much will it take out of me to get to where I'm trying to go, right? Like now, if you're sacrificing, like say you're going into overtime, like say let's use overtime, right? Because most people work. Let's say you're going in for overtime, right? So you're drinking energy drinks to stay up. That overtime money you then take and you have a business project that you've been working on. You've seen great progress over an extended period of time. It's efficient, it's consistent, and it's profitable, right? If you take that overtime money and you do that and it pays off, and now you don't have to work overtime ever again, the risk outweighed the reward, or the reward outweighed the risk, right? So you took it and it paid off long term. So you did it. Now, what happens if you never tested whatever you were doing, right? And you basically went out on a limb, a risk, and you start working overtime, drinking energy drinks, and it basically sets you back even further. So now you feel like you're in the hole, and that's when everything, all the psychological battles really start to happen. But let's say now you're having to work even more, right? And now you're in a downward spiral, and you don't know where the end is. So now you're starting to have anxiety, stress, and it's basically turned into a snowball. You get what I'm saying? So when it comes down to never fly higher than you're willing to fall, you guys have to quite literally stop at every decision you make, no matter how small that you think it is. You're trading something off every time you make a decision. Every decision is offensive or defensive. You're either protecting what you have, or you're advancing yourself, or you're setting yourself back. That's a failed defense. You see what I'm saying? Or a failed offense. So that's pretty much the topic of today's video. Not nothing too long, nothing too crazy, but just never fly higher than you're willing to fall. Always think about the situation you're about to get yourself in, and are you gonna be okay with how it could turn out? So with that being said, visualize or conceptualize, visualize, and then prioritize and get it done. With that being said, this was D God Sense on the D God Sense Show. This was episode 9. Never fly higher than you're willing to fall. Peace. I'm out.